Chapter 786, Holding on to a Straw of Hope. Despair filled Viviani's heart and she had no energy left. The sacred light blood art was a forbidden art that caused harm to her body. Let alone do anything now, she wasn't able to use any power for the next 3 days. There was so little energy that she was currently physically weak. At this moment, even an ordinary person was enough to end her life, let alone one of the experts of Savage Mammoth. A look of hatred covered Wang Rui's face as he saw the ghastly pale Viviani thrown onto the deck of the cargo ship. He stood beside Qingqing Mountain's old man for a long time in silence. At the same time, there was a smile blooming on Viviani's face, followed by the shape of her mouth that spoke, "Thank you." Damn bastard. Wang Rui clenched his fist as this was the second time he felt powerless, aside from the first time when he got defeated by Tang Xiu's subordinate in Saipan. A chilling expression hung on the face of Qingqing Mountain's old man. He shot an indifferent glance at Wang Rui and said, "This is my first time going out to spend leisure time with you, yet what I saw was you being immature and impulsive. I'll definitely report this to your grandfather when I get back. It will be up to him as to what kind of punishment you'll get." Suddenly, Wang Rui turned around with a look of indignance on his face as he asked in a heavy voice, "You definitely have the ability to rescue her, why did you give up?" "I told you that she's my friend." "Nobody has absolute friends in this world." "Ever," sneered Qingqing Mountain's old man. "Between protecting oneself and protecting others, the former comes first. I may be able to kill that old codger if I use my trump card, but then I'll lose that last resort for good. There's neither any gain nor obligation for me to help your insignificant friend. It's enough as long as you don't die, no more." "Is that really enough?" Wang Rui could feel his face burning. He clearly remembered all the boastful words he had said before. He recalled why he stopped Viviani from leaving and let her rest on his ship. But regarding it bluntly, it was he who harmed her as she would have left directly otherwise. Then she wouldn't have encountered Savage Mammoth's people and got captured. "I can never accept this," said Wang Rui bitterly. "Then throw away all those thoughts of indulging yourself in pleasure if you can't accept it. Go into seclusion to practice well in the mountain," sneered the Qingqing Mountain's old man. "You may be praised as the best genius of Qingqing Mountain in the past 100 years. But if you keep loitering around all the time like this, you can expect other youths to surpass you and trample your head. One of them might even become the future heir of Qingqing Mountain." There was no chance that Wang Rui would give attention to this old man's words if he said that in the past. He thought he had done his very best already since after all, he had reached the Grandmaster level at less than 30 years old. Another 8 to 10 years later, he believed that he could break through the limit of the Grandmaster level and ascend to a higher level. Now, however, all the pride and arrogance he had were practically smashed and disappeared. The harsh reality brutally forced him to see that even if he was able to reach a higher level, he would never become an invincible existence that he thought he would be, as there still were many strong people in this world. "Huh? What's that?" The face of Qingqing Mountain's old man suddenly changed. He looked up toward the cargo ship that was gradually disappearing. He vaguely saw a pool of lightning looming several hundred meters above the cargo ship, along with an aqua-blue screen of light that rippled layer upon layer. Wang Rui followed his gaze and was immediately stunned, a look of shock moving on his face. The lightning flashes became more distinct and the aqua-blue screen, which was as though descending from the firmament, continuously enlarged before his eyes. Likewise, the silver-haired old man on the cargo ship had also perceived the peculiar situation up in the sky. His complexion turned incomparably solemn, the scales on his body that had not yet receded erected again as he readied himself for battle. Boom! Lightning bolts the size of an arm and comprising of 1,000 branches gradually formed. The lightning arms flashed through the aqua-blue sphere, merging and dispersing from time to time, while the deafening rumble of thunders in the sky kept getting louder. It was as though an apocalypse was about to descend in this region, bringing a horrifying terror. Crack! Kaboom! A bolt of lightning suddenly flashed and broke free from the aqua-blue sphere. It flashed from 100 to 200 meters above to directly strike down the men in black robes on the cargo ship. Be careful. Quickly avoid it. Panic and horror filled the silver-haired old man whole being as he exclaimed loudly. Yet, he knew very well that however loud his warning was, the mighty power of lightning was so strong and fast that he wouldn't be able to avoid it, much less his men. Crack. Kaboom. Crack. Kaboom. Lightning bolts kept flashing and broke free from the aqua-blue sphere. The bolts were as though possessing eyes, as each strike accurately blitzed down to blast a savage mammoth member. More than 30 experts of savage mammoth were struck with lightning bolts and died a tragic death. How could this happen? Fear and horror engulfed the silver-haired old man more and more. He would have jumped into the sea to escape the predicament had it not been for this atrocious water. The lightning bolts were just too evilly frightening in that they didn't split and disperse anywhere else but instead struck down his men. It was no less than the very epitome of perfect accuracy. However, no one could figure out a solution for such a situation, shown by only 10 plus of his men still alive out of the previous dozens. Most importantly, the remaining several people had taken shelter in the cabin and only the weakened Viviani remained on the deck beside him. 1,000 meters away from here, the old man from Qingcheng Mountain, Wang Rui, and several of his men were watching dumbfoundedly at the tragic situation brought by the peculiar phenomenon that was currently unfolding on the cargo ship. Is it because of the heavens' anger that it sent down its wrath toward the savage mammoths people for what they've done? Wang Rui's lips squirmed as he murmured to himself. The Qingcheng Mountain's old man frowned and took a deep breath before shaking his head and said, "That's not it. This is not the wrath of heavens. It's likely because of a godlike being who's targeting those mutants." Is it possible? Wang Rui couldn't finish his words as his voice was suddenly as though blocked by a sponge. At this time, he could clearly see two figures descending from the sky and directly land on the cargo ship. It's him? Wang Rui's eyes tightly fixated on the familiar voice, yet disbelief could be seen filling his eyes. There was a smile on Tang Xiu's face the moment his feet landed on the deck and then he circled around the silver-haired old man twice. He watched the old man's round and staring eyes, whose fear was evident on his face. Tang Xiu raised his hand to touch his chin and spoke, "What an interesting mutated man, transforming one's body using an engineered beast's gene so that they possess the ability of beasts for a short time to enhance their strength. Unfortunately, the latent potential of the body has been overly stimulated, and ultimately lost the most important foundation to progress further." The silver-haired old man wanted to move, but the terrifying force that directly imprisoned him was as though a mountain. However hard he exerted his power to break free, not only was he unable to move, he didn't have the strength to even lift his finger. He very much tried to speak, but his mouth was as though it had been sewn, leaving the words he wanted to speak stuck in his throat. Not even the faintest sound could come out. Fear. It was as though a venomous snake was eyeing his heart, sending his whole being in a state like having fallen into an icy hole. Tang Xiu shook his head as he turned around and walked toward Viviani, who was struggling to get up. He reached out to her and propped her up as he squatted on the deck and let her lean on him. He smiled at her and said, "I'm really curious about something here. What on earth have you done? To think that these people spare no effort just to hunt and kill you?" A trace of life finally appeared in the previously dead, hopeless-filled eyes of Viviani. She felt like she just had a dream. She could feel Tang Xiu propping her up as she watched the face that had been appearing in her mind countless times recently. She thought that she would never see him again in this life, resulting in a deep regret inside her. But now, he unexpectedly appeared before her. He must even be related to that terrifying phenomenon that just happened. "You," Viviani spoke in a hoarse voice, yet she didn't know what to say all of a sudden. "What?" Tang Xiu chuckled and said, "You never thought that I would appear here all of a sudden giving you hope to survive, right?" "Yes." Viviani did see such hope since Tang Xiu was someone deep and mysterious in her eyes. Back when she met him in Saipan, his strength was not that strong, but seeing him again at the present, she could feel a kind of unfathomable sensation coming out from him. Then go live well since you have seen the hope to go on living. Tang Xiu chuckled and said, the only real thing in life is being alive itself. Viviani took a deep breath and tried to suppress the stirring emotions she had inside before she asked earnestly, how come you appear here? Also, did you just create that lightning? What? Did you think that I have such an ability? Answered Tang Xiu with a pale smile. I don't know. Viviani shook her head. Then don't ask since you don't know, okay, replied Tang Xiu with a smile. It just happened that I saw you being hunted and came to help since I thought you're an old acquaintance. Anyways, you haven't answered my question yet. What on earth have you done, exactly? How come these people spared no effort and hunted you down? A smile suddenly appeared on Viviani's face and the will to live in her eyes kept getting stronger with the smile on her face getting brighter. She was thinking something that was worth celebrating and spoke with a bit of a cheerful tone. I've killed my mortal enemies and some others. It was they who machinated all kinds of traps and engineered all the schemes behind my back that had killed my family members, one after another. That's great. Tang Xiu raised his thumbs up. Some redness appeared on Viviani's fair face. She looked a bit embarrassed and said, but the last one, the savage mammoth's people, found me and began to hunt me down. I've been on the run for half a month before they caught up to me here. At first, Savage Mammoth only sent weak people to hunt me down. I killed a lot of them, I can't remember exactly how many. But it should more than 100 people, no less. But later on, the people who hunted me kept getting more powerful, up until you came to save me just in time, fortunately. They would have killed me otherwise. Chapter 787, Methods of Immortal Experts. The more Tang Xiu listened to the hardships Viviani had gone through, the more he secretly and gradually admired her ability. The savage mammoth's people did indeed possess formidable power, and some of them were comparable to the early stage of Foundation establishment experts, like that silver-haired old man. Viviani was quite formidable herself, since the strength she could fully showcase should have surpassed those at the early stage of Foundation establishment. It was just that the number of enemies that hunted her down was too many while more and more experts emerged among them. Even if she went all out to kill them, there were times that she was too lenient, and her ability to escape if she tried was also inadequate among these savage mammoth members. Tang Xiu let out a smile and gestured to Ji Qimei. The latter immediately snorted coldly as those several experts of savage mammoth suddenly felt like their necks were grabbed by an invisible hand. Their feet kept convulsing chaotically in the air as they were lifted out of the cabin. The strange scene made it so that Viviani's jaw fell and disbelief filled her face. Tang Xiu took out a dagger and put it in Viviani's hand, smilingly saying, "They are your enemy. It's up to you. What do you want to do with their lives?" Shocked as she was, Viviani looked down at the dagger in her hand. Her countenance turned redder the longer she watched the faces of those savage mammoth's members who looked like they were being hung in the air. She struggled in hesitation for a short while before she gradually moved toward those people. Puff. The dagger stabbed the heart of one of them and she quickly pulled it out. Then, the several remaining members of Savage Mammoth were struck and killed by her in a half-minute. She walked step by step to the front of the silver-haired old man as she turned to look at Tang Xiu and asked, "Can I kill him too?" Tang Xiu gave an allowing gesture and smilingly said, "These people are mutants or hybrids, I don't know. You can do what you will to these beings, neither human nor beasts." Viviani nodded heavily and shot a grateful look at Tang Xiu. She then stabbed the silver-haired old man's heat mercilessly with the dagger. She looked as though she had yet to vent her vexed feelings inside as she fiercely stabbed the silver-haired old man's throat afterward. Though she was rather weak right now, she was still able to stab him several centimeters deep. Huff. As she pulled the dagger out, Viviani staggered backward for a few steps. She could have fallen again had Tang Xiu not quickly came to catch and prop her up. "So, what do you feel now?" asked Tang Xiu with a smile. "I feel rather complicated, but I'm mainly dying to become more formidable," answered Viviani full of seriousness. A smile outlined on Tang Xiu's mouth. Little did he expect that Viviani would actually be keen and tactful and raise this topic even before he spoke his true intention. He then smiled and said, "Having formidable strength is naturally the dream of countless people indeed. But a dream is nothing but a dream for many, as those who can obtain the opportunity to increase their strength are very rare, a selected few. If anything, what will you do if such an opportunity were given to you but you must pay the price for it?" "Exactly what price must I pay for it?" asked Viviani. "For instance, freedom," said Tang Xiu. The answer made Viviani fall into silence for a long time before she heavily nodded and answered, "I'm willing to pay for it." "Then follow since you're willing." Tang Xiu smilingly said, "You also saw the terrifying phenomenon a while ago, right? Let alone annihilate these mutants who just hunted you down. You even will be able to eradicate the entire savage mammoth and those enemies who had been hunting you down if you follow me. Can you really give me such an opportunity?" Viviani was amazed. "Of course I can do that, why else did I tell you about it?" said Tang Xiu. "All right, let's greet that Samaritan fellow. It's time to go back." Viviani turned around to see the two liners in the distance and saw Wang Rui, who stood on one of the ships as she inquired, "You mean Mr. Wang?" "You know, I know this Mr. Wang too." Tang Xiu chuckled and said, "In any case, he has seen something he shouldn't see today, so I have to deal with it." Having said that, Tang Xiu directly grabbed Viviani's arms and floated as he walked in the air toward the liner a kilometer away. As he came above the ship, he looked down toward the shocked Qingqing Mountain's old man, Wang Rui, and his men before speaking to them with an indifferent smile. "How does it feel to watch such a show, Wang Rui?" Tang. "Tang Xiu, are you a cultivator?" asked Wang Rui suddenly. Hi's throat had somewhat gone dry and his lips squirmed a few times. "I am," answered Tang Xiu. A bitter expression could be seen on Wang Rui's face as he slowly said, "I finally understand why you didn't want to fight me. I was really too proud and arrogant, it seems. For you being able to realize your own shortcomings, that means you have the capability to remold yourself in the future if you could," Tang Xiu said with a pale smile. "Anyways, is this the elder of Qingqing Mountain? Not bad, you can actually break the limitation of Grandmaster level and reach a higher level." The Qingqing Mountain's old man wore a respectful look as he cupped his fists and said, "Wang Luzhong greets Senior Immortal. Dispense with the ceremony." Tang Xiu waved and said, "It just so happened that we meet by coincidence, no less. You are rather talented in cultivation, yet lacking in some aspects of the character. I very much hope that you can change such a bad habit in the future. If anything, I think Wang Rui is worth learning from in this regard." The Qingqing Mountain's old man looked embarrassed for he knew what Tang Xiu was referring to. After all, he just abandoned Viviani, letting the savage mammoth's people capture her. Despite Tang Xiu's reprimand, however, he didn't dare to have the slightest complaint and kept his respectful manner and reverently replied, "I'll definitely correct myself." Tang Xiu just let out a pale smile in response before he turned toward Wang Rui and said, "You've helped Viviani today, so she owes you this favor. Call me if there's a time you need her to pay this favor. But there's no need for the rest to remember anything about what has happened today." The next moment, Ji Qimei unleashed her magical power and a streak of light thrust into the heads of Qingqing Mountain's old man and the rest, causing Wang Rui's face to suddenly change dramatically. "Tang Xiu, you." Tang Xiu raised his hand to interrupt him. After half a minute of silence, the Qingqing Mountain's old man opened his eyes, looking dazed as he shook head and got up from the floor. "What's wrong with me? Who are these people?" Wang Rui's eyes contracted as a tempestuous wave quaked in his heart. He realized what method it was, a terrifying means to tamper and erase people's memories. Who exactly is she? How could this elderly lady have such a terrifying ability? Tang Xiu held Viviani's arm and didn't put her on the floor so that he could sniff a pleasant fragrance coming out from her. Tang Xiu gently patted her arm and smiled lightly. I think you know what to do after what happened today, Wang Rui. Viviani is injured and I need to take her with me. We bade you farewell now. We shall meet again someday. We shall meet again someday? Wang Rui only felt like he saw a halo in front of him as the figures of Tang Xiu, Viviani, and the terrifying elderly lady vanished out of the blue. A deep sense of loss emerged inside him at this very moment, for he knew that he would never surpass Tang Xiu in regards to cultivation, let alone defeat him. He and those people were not of the same world at all. The Qingqing Mountains old man took a quick glance around as he exclaimed in alarm, "What's that ability? Such a speed is." Wang Rui shot a deep look towards the spot where Tang Xiu just vanished and slowly said, "I can't tell you who they are, but I hope you can forget the scene you just saw. Only then will there be no harm and only benefits to you and our Qingqing Mountain." Jingmen Island, the Everlasting Feast Hall. Viviani only felt a flower halo blooming in front of her eyes. The heavenly thunder and the severe weather had disappeared. Although she was still being held by Tang Xiu, she was filled with amazement as she found that Tang Xiu had landed and stood on the ground, the trees and buildings in the surroundings showing that they had just arrived on solid land. "What's this place?" Suppressing her shock inside, Viviani asked in puzzlement. "I'd like to ask you one last question, Viviani," said Tang Xiu with a smile. "Do you have any concerns about yourself? Or something that you have yet to finish?" Viviani thought over it for a short while before nodding, and said, "Yes. I want to eradicate the savage mammoth. I have some dealings with the people from this organization, and these people are simply evil, the very devil themselves." "Only this one, no less?" asked Tang Xiu again. Probably only this one," said Viviani. "I don't have a family anymore, either do I have a relationship with the Vatican anymore. I have nothing left to be concerned about. If so, then stay and live here as a member of Everlasting Feast Hall and become a ghost here after you die." Tang Xiu nodded and said, "This place is Jingmen Island, the headquarter of Everlasting Feast Hall. You can stay here for the time being. I'll send someone to arrange the daily necessities for your life and to guide you to familiarize yourself with this place." "All right," Viviani replied and inquired again, "When can I get that opportunity exactly?" Ji Qimei, who stood at the side, interjected indifferently, "For you to be brought here is already an opportunity in and of itself, lass." "That's right. Someone will naturally come to you to impart a cultivation technique when you've familiarized yourself here so that you can keep getting stronger." During their conversation, Gu Xiaoshue's figure flashed from the distance and arrived in front of Tang Xiu in just several breaths. She curiously sized up Viviani before speaking, "Grand Master, Lulu just called me. She's looking for you, saying that it's very urgent." "Ouyang Lulu?" He was filled with a bit of curiosity. Tang Xiu took out his mobile phone and dialed Ouyang Lulu's number. A short while after he dialed it, his call was picked up as Ouyang Lulu's hurried voice came out, "Tang Xiu? Is it you?" "It is," said Tang Xiu. "What happened? Where are you now?" asked Ouyang Lulu rapidly. "Can you hurry back to Shanghai? Han Qingwu just got an accident." Tang Xiu's countenance changed and he asked in a heavy voice, "What happened to her?" Chapter 788, Mental Demon Possession. Tang Xiu hung up with an expression that was like the frost of the December solstice, yet he held deep concern in his eyes. Numerous times he had convinced himself that he and Han Qingwu, or rather, Shui Qingqing, no longer had any relationship. If any, the link between them was just hatred between enemies. However, never did he realize that regardless of the Shui Qingqing in the immortal world, or the now Han Qingwu on Earth, both of them had been affecting him all this time. "I'll buy a ticket on the next flight back to Shanghai." At first, Tang Xiu planned to take Ji Qimei to send him back to Shanghai, but after thinking about it for a while, He thought that it was inappropriate. He dared to order Ji Chime to take him to the sea area of Jingmen Island because the atrocious weather greatly obstructed the satellite monitoring over the region. But if he were to go to the mainland with Ji Chime flying in the sky, the satellite would definitely catch them. Shanghai. In the deepest part of Paradise Manor, the ghastly pale Han Qinggu sat cross-legged on the bed inside the room of a Western-style building. Her eyes were filled with fierceness and her hair was disheveled. Discomfiture was the reflection of her whole being. For steel chains tightly shackled her four bare limbs, each fixed at the four corners of the room. It was a mental demon that led to chi deviation, a problem that a cultivator was prone to encounter. For every cultivator who encountered such a mental demon, the symptoms ranged from a mental disorder to serious internal injuries. The backlash of blood and chi all over the body could even lead to an explosion of their body and result in their death. Outside the room, a deep concern plastered itself on Ouyang Lulu's stunning face. She may not like Han Qingwu and even saw her as a love rival, yet she didn't feel at ease and even felt restless upon seeing her appearance right now. It was more so that she had just started her path into cultivation that made her realize that she might also face a situation, such as this mental demon, causing her to pay more caution toward this aspect of cultivation. How? When will Tang Xiu come back? Han Jintong looked at Ouyang Lulu after she hung up, a worried look his aged face. He said that he'll immediately come back from Jingmen Island, answered Ouyang Lulu. If nothing happens, he should be returning back to Shanghai before 2 p.m. Did he say whether my granddaughter will face any danger? Asked Han Jintong rapidly. I'm really worried at just the way she looks currently. He didn't elaborate on anything. Ouyang Lulu shook her head. Han Jintong quickly picked up the mobile phone and searched for Tang Xiu's cell number. Right as he wanted to dial it, he hesitated and was worried that Tang Xiu would be angry. After hesitating for a short while, his fingers eventually didn't press the dial key. At present, Han Jintong and Ouyang Lulu didn't realize that Han Qingwu, who was being chained, was falling into her memories during the battle she had in the Immortal worlds. Countless fragments of memory kept flashing inside her mind one after another. A series of those particular scenes felt like a movie being played, as it continuously went from her last 20 years of experience to her current life. Immortal world. Celestial beings. Sect. Lover. Betrayal. For a long while, Han Qingwu was as though living in the center of this paradise and then fell into hell. Such emotional turmoil nearly drove her into insanity. Her consciousness was completely immersed in the sea of memory fragments. They were interwoven intricately, so much so that her consciousness of the current reality and the one in the dreamlike state had combined, and she didn't know that she had been chained up. In the eyes of Han Jintong and Ouyang Lulu, she was just of the brink of plunging into insanity. Jingmen Island Airport. Although Ouyang Lulu's voice when she called was very urgent and anxious, Tang Xiu was slightly relieved since Lulu told him that it was chi deviation caused by a mental demon and she lost her mind, near the brink of insanity, yet not directly leading to her body exploding. In order to prevent the unwanted eventuality, however, he still hurried to return back and boarded the flight to Shanghai after some efforts, accompanied by Mo and Jin Shi as usual. Boss, will we also face such a mental demon that leads to a chi deviation in the future? As the airliner flew in the blue sky, Missouri Ao, who sat next to Tang Xiu asked, a worried expression flashing in his eyes. There's a chance indeed, since every cultivator might have to face such a mental demon crisis that leads to chi deviation. Tang Xiu nodded and said, as the term implies, such a mental demon manifests in two aspects. Firstly, there's the situation where one's cultivation strays from the correct path due to some mistakes. It could also be triggered by the shortcomings of his cultivation technique, leading to the possibility where they encounter intractable problems in their cultivation. The second being the shortcomings in their state of minds. Figuratively speaking, obsession such as a mental demon situation belongs to this second type in around 95 out of 100 cultivators. It's triggered by the shortcomings of their state of minds, causing the breeding of a mental demon in their hearts. I see. Mo Ao nodded and asked again, is there any means to work around this situation, boss? Definitely, answered Tang Xiu. The best method to deal with it is for a cultivator to cultivate a firm and resolute state of mind so that not even a strong mental demon would affect him. Also, there are some magical artifacts which can be used to calm the heart and focus the mind, avoiding the breeding of this mental demon. Mo Ao's expression changed and he asked with some anticipation, how do you get those mysterious artifacts, boss? Are you able to manufacture them? I can refine them, naturally, answered Tang Xiu. But the materials needed to refine them are very precious. Even those cultivators who have been cultivating for thousands of years may not necessarily be able to obtain these materials. A disappointed look flashed in Mo Ao's eyes. Even though he had become a cultivator himself, he was still in awe toward those who had cultivated for thousands of years. An adage said that if someone gets old and yet death can't overcome him, then there's something weird with him. For ordinary people who could live past 100 years old, they were called to have a long life. Yet those who could live past 200 years were called old freaks, monsters. Those who could live millennia and yet still live to see the day, wasn't it much more proper to call them ghosts or spirits? Then, what exactly is this state of mind? Mood or state of the mind is an issue that can be understood but not described, for it is subtle and mysterious, explained Tang Xiu. If we have to explain in an easier way, though it is perhaps inaccurate, it can also be interpreted as the state of mental perseverance or toughness. The more experiences one obtains in life, the stronger their heart and mind get tempered, while the more perceptive they are, the higher their state of minds are. You should have heard about the terms epiphany or sudden enlightenment, yes? Cultivators need perception and comprehension to come to some realizations, and thus, the more insights they have, the higher their state of minds and mental state are. Mo Ao nodded, though he only had a hazy notion about it. This issue was something that could be felt and understood, but couldn't be described in words, for he had yet to encounter such a state as of now. Only after he reached a much higher realm in cultivation would he be able to comprehend what a mental state and state of mind were. The airliner landed at Shanghai Airport at 12:30. Tang Xiu, Mo Ao, and the rest just went out the exit of the airport when they saw Ouyang Lulu anxiously waiting for them outside. You're back, Tang Xiu. Let's rush to the Paradise Manor, immediately said Ouyang Lulu after approaching them. Tang Xiu nodded while walking and then asked, how is Han Qingwu's situation now? She has gone crazy. Ouyang Lulu forced a smile and said, she's been staying in the Paradise Manor for a few days, and I've arranged her to stay in the multiple-storied Western-style building where Han Jintong has been staying. She suddenly went crazy in the middle of the night yesterday and even collapsed the whole building. Fortunately, only Han Jintong lived inside, else ordinary people staying inside would have been crushed to death. Ouyang Lulu suddenly realized that she went off topic and quickly changed the subject. Han Qingwu's present condition is very bad. She looks like she has gone insane. Had it been not for Han Jintong and Shan Zhenna working together to chain and lock her up to put her under control, I'm afraid she would have made a big mess already. Tang Xiu nodded after hearing it. Going crazy was indeed a type of insanity. Even if she got injured, there was still a way to deal with her injuries as long as he could arrive there in time. Only, such a mental disorder or insanity was very troublesome to deal with. If he were still the supremacy back like in the Immortal world, it would only need a flick of a finger to solve this issue. His present strength now, however, was very weak and he was probably not a match for a golden core cultivator if he encountered one, let alone powerful enough to solve a mental disorder, the most mysterious of the brain's problems. At 2 p.m. Tang Xiu appeared in the room where Han Qingwu was locked inside. He watched her desperately struggling crazy-like appearance along with her disheveled hair. He could only sigh inside and faintly guessed that it should be related to the memories of her previous life, though he was still not sure about it. Lulu, wait outside. No one can enter this room without my permission, Tang Xiu ordered and then closed the room from the inside. Shortly afterward, Tang Xiu came to the table in the corner, taking out cinnabar ink, yellow paper, and a weasel hair writing brush from his interspatial ring, and then began to draw magical charms. Soul Tranquilizer Charm and Heartfire Purifying Charm. Both charms had a wonderful magical effect to alleviate such mental disorder. If Han Qingwu's situation was not too bad, she should be calming down in a short time. However, when Tang Xiu finishing drawing the two charms and used them on Han Qingwu, not only did they have an effect on her, Han Qingwu even went crazier and treated him as an attack target. Although she was quite strong, her strength broke out to a level higher from her insanity. It seems like I can only use that particular art. Tang Xiu sighed inside. The art was very powerful and at least would be able to solve Han Qingwu's insanity problem right now, yet casting that art would bring about some effects on his body. He bit his finger, forcing several drops of his blood out, and he began to inscribe ancient runes full of vicissitudes in the air. The golden runes seemed to contain an infinite profoundness as it gradually merged into the blood. The red blood immediately turned gold-colored, covered by a sphere of light around it. Blood Soul Hex, Demon Suppression. Tang Xiu's body quaked and he slapped the golden blood into Han Qingwu's glabella. Suddenly, Han Qingwu's body was as though being struck by lightning as she twitched a few times and slowly fell onto the floor. Tang Xiu pinched the steel chain, breaking the shackles on her, and he picked up her delicate body and placed her on the bed. He then stretched the blanket over her body and stood quietly at the bedside for a long time without a word. He could clearly see the painful expression on Han Qingwu's eyebrows, indicating the volatility and violent fluctuations in her consciousness. Was this the memory of her past life that affected her? Would she remember the days when she was in the immortal world? After a long time, Tang Xiu took a deep sigh and turned around to the door, opened it and went out. How is my granddaughter, Tang Xiu? Restlessness completely covered his face. Han Jintong, who waited outside, sprinted to the front of Tang Xiu and asked. Chapter 789, Abnormal Behavior. For a short while, Tang Xiu fell into silence and slowly replied, she's not in danger, but whether the price she has to pay is big or small after having this mental demon possession will have to rely on herself. If she wakes up in time and adjusts herself to this problem, she will be able to recover to like before after some time. But if she doesn't, I'm afraid she won't be able to continue cultivating in the future. Han Jintong's heart thumped as a chill inside his heart madly emerged. He clearly realized what it meant for a cultivator not being able to cultivate. It was like losing the hope of having the ability to become stronger. For cultivators who had been going through the bustle and hustle of their lives, going through such a mediocre life without any means to cultivate further was a fate worse than death. He didn't know whether his granddaughter would be able to endure such an ending. Is there any other way to work around it? Asked Han Jintong quickly. It's not like there's no other way, actually, Tang Xiu said lightly. It's just to manufacture the artifacts to alleviate a mental demon in a short time will need some heavenly materials and treasures. However, I don't have these heavenly materials, at least not on Earth, as they are nearly impossible to find here. I've done what I can. There's nothing we can do but see whether she can pull herself out on her own now. In fact, there was another method that Tang Xiu didn't mention, as it was a situation with a 1 in a million chance of success. That was to say, it was a situation where those possessed by their mental demon were able to sober up and even have an epiphany. The insights they obtained from the epiphany would fully remedy the price of the mental demon possession, and they would even get some benefits from it. That was, they must be able to overcome their mental demon, control it, and then destroy it. Those who were able to overcome such a situation not only would be able to traverse further on their cultivation path, but would also become more formidable. Oh, you are to stay here and not let anyone approach this place. Do notify me at once when Han Qingwu wakes up, ordered Tang Xiu clearly before taking Ouyang Lulu to leave. As they came to Ouyang Lulu's residence, Tang Xiu straightly sat on the sofa with a headache. An unexpected situation happened to Han Qingwu and caught him by surprise. He originally thought that if Han Qingwu kept cultivating, she might be able to ascend and become an immortal. Even if she couldn't fully recover the memory of her past life on Earth, she would definitely be able to restore it once she ascended to the immortal world. At that time, he would be able to settle the account between them in the immortal world. However, if she were to forever halt at this stage, should he wait for her to enter samsara and be reincarnated to step onto the cultivation path once again? Even if she did have the opportunity to break free from the bitter sea of samsara and be reincarnated as a human again, the chances of her restoring her past life's memory was very minute. Realizing that Tang Xiu was in a bad mood, Ouyang Lulu quietly sat down next to him. She even immediately changed the topic in an attempt to adjust his bad mood. "What did you do some time ago, Tang Xiu? You didn't even attend such an important event like the tender that your magnificent Tang Corp held a while ago? I really can't figure out what Kong Xia had in mind either. Why would she hand over such a large project to a company that didn't even complete the architectural blueprint design? The Senyuan Group?" Tang Xiu's expression changed. He secretly admired the means and resourcefulness of Chen Zixue, even though he did tell Kong Xia previously to give the Senyuan Group the chance to participate in the tender, if there were none more suitable than them. She was still the decision-maker to give the final green light for the tender. She knew how to handle it much better than himself, as she would never easily comply in favor of Chen Zixue because of his opinion. "I had been busy to deal with some urgent and important issues recently, so didn't have much time to pay attention to the company's business. Kong Xia is very capable and she must have her reasons for choosing Senyuan Group. If anything, I also have met Chen Zixue, the Senyuan Group's owner, and saw the unfinished design myself before I left. It was quite good. I recently learned something about Chen Zixue and his Senyuan Group. This guy is indeed quite capable, though he was quite ruthless sometimes," said Ouyang Lulu. "He even dares to resort to many taboo means that are avoided by the business community to get what he wants." "Not really. It's just a natural selection, a survival of the fittest." Tang Xiu shook his head and said, "Some people say that the market itself is but a battlefield, the field of contest where either we or our enemies die. The means are never important, only the ending and its outcome. In order to become the winner and survive to see another day, why should people fear schemes and intrigues? Why fear being seen as shameless and cruel? As long as you have enough strength and keep getting stronger, all problems are no longer an issue." "Your argument is just lame and logically warped, you know," rebuked Ouyang Lulu discontentedly. Tang Xiu couldn't help but laugh and said, "How come this argument is logically warped? Take the analogy for the struggle for imperial authority for instance. The final winners who sit on the throne, which one of them have hands not stained by blood and who have not trampled on heaps of countless people and bones to sit there? There are a lot of other examples. The outcome is what matters rather than the process. Now I ask you, how does Senyuan Group compare to its previous state 10 years ago?" "It's numerous times stronger," answered Ouyang Lulu. "Isn't it just natural?" Tang Xiu nodded and continued, "Every successful person will have many enemies. Yet you can see for yourself that Senyuan Group is still getting stronger and Chen Zixue is getting wealthier as well, right?" Ouyang Lulu had nothing to retort. She could tell that Tang Xiu's argument was justifiable, yet it was still difficult for her to accept it. She was not some pure, innocent individual herself, for she also opened a casino in Jingmen Island, indicating that she also had some crazy side in her. However, opening a casino was just going in the same direction to some shady, illegal dealings, a pure underworld business, so to say. But Senyuan Group was a proper business on the surface, yet the operator actually resorted to many foul means, much to her disgust. Arguing with Tang Xiu made Ouyang Lulu disinclined to continue the topic. She got up to make some tea and served a pot of it in front of Tang Xiu, then said, "Anyways, that old MOE has been kinda acting weird recently. Are you going to see him?" as it seems like Shanjena is nearly unable to stand it. Tang Xiu looked dull for a moment and immediately remembered the research topic being studied by Moe. He then immediately asked, what exactly happened? Did the research run into a bottleneck or something? Yup. It's a very serious bottleneck, no less. Ouyang Lulu laughed and said, I heard Shanjena complaining, you know. If she didn't anticipate the medicinal pill reward from you, she would have probably resigned and wouldn't give her blood again. Pfft. Ouyang Lulu's last sentence instantly shattered the depressive mood Tang Xiu had. He couldn't help but laugh after hearing it. He took and drank his cup of tea, got up and then said, all right, let's go see Profession Mo and Shanjena then. 10 minutes later, Tang Xiu met Moe. The old man wore a white lab coat with his myopia glasses, and was currently busying himself with tons of research instruments around him. Shanjena, however, was sitting listlessly on a sofa near the door, drowning in drowsiness. Gimme a half tube of your fresh blood again, Shanjena. I'm probably heading in the right direction, Moe suddenly spoke without looking up. Shanjena's face changed. She immediately jumped up from the sofa and angrily roared, you what? You're a fucking asshole, Moe. I heard those fucking words 20 times already. But what's the result? Do tell me what result you get, huh? The blood of my bloodkin is very precious and will need a long time to recover every drop of blood we drop. But you've taken more than 20 half-tubes of my blood recently, bastard. Moe frowned and turned around. Only as his eyes fell on Shanjena did he realize that some people were calmly standing behind her smiling. It was Tang Xiu and Ouyang Lulu standing there without a word.
Ah.
You came, Tang Xiu. Moe was pleasantly surprised and put down his things before coming over. Hearing that, Shanjena similarly turned around to look towards the back. She immediately sprinted to the front of Tang Xiu when she saw him, wearing a wronged expression as she complained, please save me, Mr. Tang. This old thing has been treating me so badly. He has no skills whatsoever, not even producing an ounce of any drugs from his research, yet he forces me to pump out my blood every day. I will turn into a human if this keeps going. Tang Xiu couldn't help but laugh and he gently patted her shoulder. He then took out a porcelain vase from his interspatial ring and spoke to Shanjena while handing it over, all right, this is a medicinal pill I just concocted recently. Take it and you should benefit from it. Don't rush to take it now, though. Wait until the evening break. Great. Shanjena was full of joy and excitedly fiddled with the porcelain vase. She couldn't wait to immediately unplug the cork and pour the medicinal pills inside into her mouth. Tang Su then turned to look at Moe and smilingly said, are you encountering some problems, Professor Mo?
Yeah.
Moe forced a smile and replied, the bloodkin's blood is kinda too active. I still can't figure out a suitable substitute substance compatible with it. Tang Xiu thought it over and said, do you think it can be substituted by some herbs? Moe looked dull for a moment before shaking his head. I dunno. Even if there are any, I know nothing about medicinal herbs. Mulling it over for a while, Tang Xiu suddenly took out his mobile and dialed a cell number. After his call rang 7 times, his call was picked up and an old, hoarse voice spoke, is there something you want, Tang Xiu? Senior, I have something that I don't know whether you're interested in, said Tang Xiu with a smile. I'm kind of researching some medicine which I think will bring about a huge contribution to human life once it's successful. Not interested, said Gui Jianzhou. Even if I do, I don't have the time for it. Besides, I found interesting stuff myself and need some time to study it. What interesting stuff, exactly? Asked Tang Xiu quickly. Gui Jianzhou was silent for a moment before he slowly replied, do you know that there are some other living beings other than humans and animals in this world? I know some, replied Tang Xiu. Do you really know some? Asked Gui Jianzhou, surprised. I do know some, answered Tang Xiu. Gue Jianzhou spoke again. All right, then I'll tell you since you know some. I recently found some arm remains in Mist Source Island. That arm remains is kind of similar to humans, but it's covered with golden hair. After I did some analysis and diagnostics to measure the degree of its hardness and blood coagulation, I found something very unusual with this thing. I think I know the arm remains you just obtained. It should be an arm from a half-beastman, a demi-human. I think you should give up researching it and join my research, though, said Tang Xiao. It's just that the subject of my research is kind of related to some strange breed of a race, so to say. Care to elaborate? Gue Jianzhou's interest piqued and he inquired more. I'll agree to join you if it interests me. Well, I have a friend here. Tang Xiao glanced at Shanzhena and said with a pale smile, she's a member of blood kin, well known as vampires by ordinary people. My researchers here are currently researching medicine using her blood. A vampire? Gue Jianzhou's scream was heard from the cell phone. Chapter 790, My Life is Only for You. Tang Xiao was very confident since he believed that a living vampire was much more attractive to Gue Jianzhou than the demi-human's arm remains. As he expected, Gue Jianzhou's tone turned a bit heavier and he nearly replied without hesitation, tell me the place and I'll immediately rush over. I'll join your research if you're telling the truth. Shanghai's Paradise Manor. I'll be waiting for you here, said Tang Xiao with a smile. Just as he hung up, a look of fear lingered on Shanzhena's beautiful face as she said with a long face, did you just invite someone else, Mr. Tang? Why? He won't do the same thing as this black-hearted old mo and take my blood every day, right? Well, he probably will, said Tang Xiao with a smile. Hearing it, Shanzhena's voice immediately increased several octaves. I refuse. I don't want to be the first vampire of bloodkin in history who died after having my blood taken too much. The bloodkin sucked others' blood to live, not the other way around. If she were to become the first vampire in history who died due to having her blood taken by others, a huge tempest would surely quake the entire bloodkin clan. It would be recorded as a shameful event in the annals of history of the vampires. Her name would definitely be there, and such a title was not something to be proud of. It won't be that bad, you can rest your worries about that. Tang Xiao waved and said, anyways, would you like to go back and have some rest, even though it's not that late now? You can take medicinal pills I just gave and see its effect, right? Shanzhena stared blankly before she immediately nodded, that's right. Right, I'll have some first, you go tend to your business. Having said that, she dashed out in a flash and her figure instantly vanished from the room. Moe came over and asked with a worried look, will your medicinal pills give a good effect to Shanzhena, Tang Xiao? I mean, it will be quite troublesome if she's unsatisfied with it and then quit. That will make all the previous efforts go down the drain. Relax. I guarantee that she won't quit, said Tang Xiao with a confident smile. Moe nodded and looked relieved, yet still hesitated since he curiously asked, can you tell me in advance about the origin of this Chinese medical practitioner you just invited? Can he cooperate with me to do the experiment? He's divine Dr. Gue Jianzhou, answered Tang Xiao slowly. Moe looked vacant with a sudden shocked yet excited change in expression, as he then spoke with a shivering voice, why you are able to invite divine Dr. Gue Jianzhou? Damn. He's a miracle-working doctor who's like a divine dragon whose tail and head are nearly impossible to catch. I've heard about his very resounding name and reputation for a long time. Well, keep your excitement at reasonable levels, though. Tang Xiao said, divine doctor or not, he's still a human. I hope his arrival will be helpful to you and that you can research what I need sooner. Don't worry. As long as there are any medicinal herbs that can substitute the substance I need, I'm certain I can research the stuff you want in the shortest time, stressed Moe with a heavy nod. All right, then. Tang Xiao nodded. Time fleeted by and 7 days passed in the blink of an eye. In a Western-style building in the depths of Paradise Manor, Han Qingwu lied on the bed inside a spacious bedroom. Her eyelashes contracted a few times as her eyes slowly opened. As her sight recovered, 2 tears slowly slid down from her eyes. The glittering tears were unable to conceal the interweaving emotions of pain and remorse. Vaguely, the love that had been imprinted deep down in her bones and inscribed in her heart roamed inside as her innermost feelings. Soul returning grass. Han Qingwu slowly sat up. Her vision was still obstructed with the vague tears as the name of the herb came to her mind. She once believed in the past and even firmly believed that it was absolutely necessary to take that soul-returning grass. Yet now, she began to hate this herb and she would never think about taking it again if possible. It was a debt she had in her previous life, a debt she still had to pay in this current life. The pain she felt inside was way too deep and painful, so much so that she was afraid that she would never be able to pay it off. She got dressed and quietly walked to the door, coming out to watch the bright sunshine outside. Yet, she sighed deep inside before she continued walking outside to the woods and sat cross-legged quietly. She still had internal injuries, but it wouldn't be a problem for her now. She had just recovered the memory of her past life, which brought about all kinds of mental states that allowed her to realize that her state of mind was no longer the same as her former self. She could recover from her injuries in several days as long as she willed it. Yet, she opted not to as she was afraid Tang Xiu would be able to sense her true self now. She was afraid that he would find out that she had recovered her memory, and thus opted to keep her identity as only Han Qingwu, Tang Xiu's class teacher. Hey! You have woken up? Not knowing how long she had spent, Ouyang Lulu appeared on the path to the woods. She was surprised to see Han Qingwu sitting cross-legged on a large blue stone and quickly approached her. Han Qingwu opened her eyes. It was like she was reacquainted with Ouyang Lulu since she took some time to carefully observe her and then slowly said, "I'm really sorry. I have troubled you." Ouyang Lulu was one who was always fearless and was rather invulnerable to others' pressuring aura, yet Han Qingwu, who observed her for a short while, gave her an uncomfortable, creepy feeling. She felt that the current Han Qingwu was as though replaced by someone else after she woke up, especially her eyes that felt like they were able to see through her. What happened to you?" Suppressing the urge to turn around and run away, Ouyang Lulu braced herself to ask. Han Qingwu looked dull for a moment before her expression slightly changed. Using her left hand to lift the long hair in front of her forehead, her eyes that seemed to be able to see through everything gradually faded away while that particular aura also stopped releasing from her body. She seemed to have returned to the former Han Qingwu, as she shook her head and said, "I'm fine, but I'm kind of having some internal injuries and feel unwell. Anyways, Lulu, did you save me after I got possessed by a mental demon?" Ouyang Lulu's heart lightened. She noticed Han Qingwu's eyes, which previously seemed as if able to see through everything, seemed to have vanished. She immediately thought the sensation she felt a while ago was just an illusion, yet she still held on to that suspicion and observed Han Qingwu before she replied, "I don't have such a great ability, you know." It was Tang Xiu. He hurried back from Jingmen Island. "I don't know what method he used to save you either. Anyways, are you hungry? You've been in a stupor for over 7 days, so do you want me to tell someone to prepare some meals for you?" Han Qingwu touched her belly and then nodded and said, "Now that you mention it, I'm really starving." "Sorry for troubling you though." Ouyang Lulu rolled her eyes. "If you don't feel hungry then something would be wrong with you. There's no way normal people can go without eating and drinking for a week, can they? Alrighty, you still have internal injuries so just go back to your room and have some rest. I'll tell someone to prepare the meal and send them to you." "Thank you," said Han Qingwu gratefully. A few minutes later, Tang Xiu received a call from Ouyang Lulu and hurried to the woods. When he saw Han Qingwu sitting cross-legged on a large blue stone, he suddenly frowned and came striding in front of her, carefully examining her face a few times, and then spoke, "You have woken up?" "Mm-hmm. And thank you." I heard from Lulu it was because of you. Han Qingwu chuckled. No need to thank me, I just don't want you to die young. Tang Xiu waved and said, by the way, can you tell me what happened to you that caused the emergence of your mental demon? Also, do you remember anything else after waking up from your stupor? What do you mean? Han Qingwu replied quizzically. You don't remember anything? Tang Xiu frowned and said, like the scene fragments that appeared in your mind previously? No. Han Qingwu shook her head and said, I just feel that I have some internal injuries and they are quite serious. It's impossible for me to recover in a short time. Anyways, Tang Xiu, did something go wrong with my cultivation? How come my true essence went out of control when I cultivated? It was like it went astray outside the cultivation circulation route outside my meridians? Tang Xiu took a deep look at her before he shook his head and said, I'm not clear about it either. Anyways, now that you're awake, there's nothing I need to do here, so help yourself. I still need to tend to my things. Han Qingwu quietly watched Tang Xiu's back as he left. The deep love she had toward this man was now even stronger than the bright sunshine. She previously thought that she could never meet Tang Xiu again, even in all the lives that she reincarnated into. Never did she expect that she would be reborn, though under a strange combination of circumstances, and meet Tang Xiu who was still alive. Please set your mind at ease, for I will only live my life for you for eternity. Lips squirming a few times, Han Qingwu whispered with a voice that only she could hear. Tang Xiu indeed had something to do and was about to leave Paradise Manor before Ouyang Lulu called him. He felt rather disappointed that he couldn't get the answer he wanted, but he still put his concerns to the back of his mind and prepared himself to face the following issue. The date to explore the 3-star vestige in Strait of Malacca was getting closer and closer, whereas the assigned ability users by the country had also arrived in Shanghai. After Tang Xiu learned about it, the China authority had assigned a total of 5 people to represent the country in exploring this 3-star vestige. Aside from the team captain, the 3 others had also arrived. Adjacent to an old alley located in Jingning district of Shanghai, a relatively remote residential complex existed. The old street itself was quite well known due to one wine shop and its pot of old wine. As the common saying goes, fragrant wine fears no dark alley. Feng Wine Shop was established decades ago. Its owner had changed once and, despite the changing era and improved living standards, it still existed and was still a good, reputable wine shop in the eyes of many people. Welcome. A youth approached and greeted at the tavern's entrance. Tang Xiu nodded and instantly released his perception after entering this Feng Wine Shop. Shortly after, he found the person he needed to meet in the corner next to the window. That person was a middle-aged man whose face had a beard full of messy hair, not much better than a chicken nest. The man was now enjoying his wine and was savoring his serving of meat and vegetable dishes. Zhu Long asked Tang Xiu. He could vaguely sense something extraordinary from the middle-aged man. Zhu Long looked up and casually squinted at Tang Xiu and lightly replied, now that we're here, let's have some drinks first. The rest will arrive shortly and I'll act as the team captain this time. I hope you will strictly follow my order later. I've got no problem with that. Despite knowing nothing about the arrangement set up by those people above, Tang Xiu was fine with it and decided to keep quiet since Zhu Long was going to lead the team. Moreover, he had prepared himself and, if there was not much danger in the 3-star vestige, he planned to leave the team to conduct an in-depth exploration to find some treasures by himself.